Support the Amigos podcast on Patreon or PayPal and receive cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
I thought you were Sling Blade.
Why would you think that?
You look like Sling Blade.
What?
The way you're giving that
I just want
eye to the camera.
I'm showing off the
there.
hat. This is my Christmas gift from Crispo.
What's on that hat?
It just says Wimpy. That's all you need to know.
All right. You know what Wimpy is?
Yeah, he's the guy from Popeye.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the hamburger establishment overseas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't got that here, do we?
We don't. We said we're full. No more hamburger establishments here.
What poor scumbag sent you that hat?
Hey, this hat was purchased. I think this hat might have been purchased at a Native American reservation.
You want to explain what you're wearing for those that are listening at home?
Well, we got to talking about coonskin caps.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got one atop the Muppet over there across the room. And so Aaron said, you should wear it. So I walked across the room, retrieved it from the top of the Muppet, and donned it myself.
Yeah, what a hat.
This is the original hat. I bought this thing when I was a wee lad. And actually, before the show, we started watching some old home videos of me wearing the hat around. So it's true to form. It's also shedding all over me. So it's an added bonus.
It'll be as bald as you are before the show's over.
Yeah. Aaron, today we're going to be talking about Rygar.
Ooh, Rygar.
Now, Rygar came out, we're going to talk about, of course, its full history in 86. 86, to me, was a turning point in the world of arcade games.
Really?
Yeah.
86? I got to hear this. Why do you say that, Boatster?
86 was the year where manufacturers really started to hone in. They started to get an idea of who the true demographics of arcades were. Previous to 1986, there were tons of different arcade games with tons of different themes. You had Paperboy, you had Domino Man, you had Tapper. In 86, the guys were like, listen, the only people coming to these places are freaking teenagers and young men with nothing better to do. We got to start catering to them and them alone.
All right.
And that's how we ended up with a crap ton of games like Rygar, the legendary hero with the ultimate weapon who mows down scores and scores of bad guys and does little else.
Unless he's played by me. In which case his large atomic yo-yo goes for naught. That's a whole other story. Yeah, you know. So you're saying you talk about stuff like give me more examples of those type of games.
Renegade.
You're talking about games where like
Double Dragon,
one superstar killer,
right?
I mean, those are around before 86.
No, they weren't. Not in the numbers that they were after 86.
What year did Double Dragon came out?
86.
Oh, really? Okay. What about Kung Fu Master?
Kung Fu Master was earlier. That was earlier, but it was set in a far eastern land and had more of a theme going for it. It wasn't just random.
Yeah, but where's Rygar set? It's set in a faraway mystical land.
Yeah, faraway mystical land of nonsense.
Oh, well, I'm just saying. Rygar, you got to give them credit for having a crazy landscape.
It is a crazy landscape.
You know, so
But you understand what I'm saying.
You're
right?
saying, well, I don't necessarily
Okay,
agree
well,
with
tell
you.
me some games after 1986 that were as inventive as the ones that I just mentioned that came from before.
Street Fighter 3. There were a lot more sequels. Listen, hey, no one's going to deny the fact that the early 80s were a hotbed of creativity. But they had to be creative because they had no sequels that they could build on.
And people thought that arcades would be populated by all different types of people. They thought that there would be, women and men of all ages coming into these places. There
were more of that. But eventually, I think it did settle into teenagers.
Right.
I mean, listen. I'm not gonna sit here and say you're wrong. There were some real good creative games that came out back in the day. But it's not like after 85 it all went down to crap. Plus, as a young teenage boy myself, I liked these games. I was very excited.
They were
for these
playing
games.
right in your hand.
That's right.
That's when Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja was percolating.
I think Bad Dudes was after 86.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 89 or so.
So, but I mean, those it's just Bad Dudes. It's just another jacked up version of the things we'd seen before.
Yeah.
Renegade and all that, and that kind of stuff. Which again, not a bad game.
No.
You know, I don't know what year Final Fight came out.
No, I think that was later.
Yeah, but I'm saying those games, those kind of go that way and beat up everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is. I will say Rygar, at least it created a unique land, plus it had a very unique weapon to play with and some unique game elements. So I will say that I don't think it just falls into the realm of like, you know, just some kind of generic Midnight Resistance type thing where you just run around. I mean, this is something going on.
Before we dive into Rygar, Aaron, let's talk about what's been going on over at everythingamiga.com. What's the Dreamcatcher been up to?
Well, the Dreamcatcher, the man takes no breaks, and he's been at it again. He's put out 3 different items this week, Boatster. We're just going to glean over. We've both been doing Christmas Mania, so I've not even been over to the site for a while, but we checked in before the show started to see what he had going on. So the first thing we're going to look at...
I've got the Werewolves in London.
Now, do you remember who sang that song, by the way?
This was Warren Zevon.
What'd you think of Warren? A Strange Cat?
A Strange Cat. I really like that song. I also like Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
Wow, I forgot about that.
Another great song.
He passed away just a few years ago, as I recall.
He did.
Was it cancer that got him, Bud?
Yeah,
Can you remember?
Yeah, it was cancer.
I remember him being on I think it was Letterman show several times. I think Letterman was a big fan of his. But all that said, this particular gimmick here, Werewolves of London, is Dreamcatcher digging in deep here. I'm trying to see exactly, because I haven't read this one yet. This is a game called Werewolves of London, apparently. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
This is not an Amiga game. It looks like it's something out on the Spectrum. So there's a great picture of Warren Zevon in the article.
Hey, that's all you need. You know, the title of the album that this song appears on is called Excitable Boy.
None of my business, really. The game he talks about was done by Steve Howard and Paul Smith from an outfit called Wiz Design. It's definitely something out on the Spectrum. So have you seen the film? I know the answer to this.
No, that sounds incredibly violent.
Well, yeah.
Is that the same as
it's werewolves?
Is it like an American Werewolf in Paris?
American Werewolf in Paris was the sequel, the horrible, bad idea.
Pseudo. So they are related.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. But I mean, I saw that, and it was not good. To be honest with you, it was just garbage.
But you think Werewolves in London? That's a quality film.
Werewolves in London was a good movie, really good, and it took special effects to an incredible new level.
The transforming animations, and things
where they turned into werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was cool. By the way, as an added bit here, Dreamcatcher also talks with Steve Howard, who actually worked on Werewolves of London. Pretty cool. So if you want to get in on that, there you go. The other article here, this one I have a little more knowledge on, which is a game called Labyrinth, based on the Jim Henson film adventure fantasy, which I saw this in the theater back in the day. Big Bowie fan, big Jennifer Connelly fan. As well.
That was her first film. How could you already be a fan?
I became a big fan after I saw the movie, and then Career Opportunities sealed the deal. But this was a wacky tale. This didn't do well in the theaters. It was a sort of a bomb, and it's one of those movies that's lingered around, and then now it's got it's a big hit now.
Right.
Of course, David Bowie, enough said. Jareth, the Goblin King, he's awesome.
Jim Henson,
he's got awesome hair.
Shop. Yeah.
It's funny, the Muppets in this are my least favorite part of the film. Some of the Muppets are okay, but some of them I find quite irritating. Muppets, I was a big fan of the Muppets back when I was a kid. Did you ever watch the Muppet Show?
Sure, yeah.
And it was on every night in syndication. I used to watch this every single night. We loved that show. And so when we heard that they're putting out movies, of course, they put out Dark Crystal, I believe was the one that came out before this one. And Dark Crystal was a real different sort of film than I expected. I mean, it was disturbing to a child, and still it's a real dark, weird movie now.
It's still hard for me to understand what's going on in a lot of Dark Crystal.
Yeah. It's creepy for a kid. And it wasn't really meant for kids, I don't think, entirely. This sort of went back to what hints that you would expect from it. Although this still had its moments of darkness in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the Goblin King was sort of creepy, and all his little minions. I mean, they were goofy. But
he was creepy until he started to sing. And it became less creepy.
But actually, have you ever heard the album, the soundtrack for this?
No.
Pretty good. I mean, if you like Bowie, it's pretty good.
I do like Bowie.
But
he's wearing a Lacoste sweater. And what universe is that? Is that Willow? Is he in this movie?
Everyone's in it.
Oh.
It's got a lot of small people in it. Okay. So you got to have them in there. But of course, there were several home games for Labyrinth, including a text game, and I think there's one that's like a graphic adventure game. I don't think it was a super widely distributed game. I remember we talked this one time because I remember they made the Labyrinth game at this dude's house. Mm-hmm. I remember I don't remember where this came up. But we talked about when they actually were putting this together at the dude's house.
Wow.
To make it, they had like a portable office and just put in like his sunroom, and that's where they made the game. So DK gets into it here, of course, with the footage from the movie. So give it a shot. And Labyrinth, again, I don't know if I've ever actually played the game. Have you ever played any of the games?
This is actually what I know of this game comes to our man, Rob O'Hara, on the Sprite Castle podcast. Yep. I don't know if you heard the episode that he did on Labyrinth.
I did.
But this game starts out as a text adventure, and then it morphs into a graphic adventure. And so if you could fire this thing up not knowing anything about it and just think it's a text adventure.
I thought there were multiple Labyrinth games. Is there just the one?
No, there's just the one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was sort of the secret, is that this world opens up like the Wizard of Oz style, black and white to color.
Pretty weird.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the best way to sell your game.
Probably not.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure designing a character that looks like that's a good way to sell your game either.
Also, who is that? Who are you supposed to be there?
I don't know.
Some
Dom DeLuise.
Goof McGoof. So there you go. I think that's pretty much the long and short of what's up on everythingamiga.com this week.
Okay.
Thank you, Dreamcatcher, for keeping the ball rolling even through the holidays. A much better and more worthy man than ourselves.
Well, we have just a couple stories from Amiga news this week. Let's switch on over to the Gamble Train. The Gamble Train is sort of it's a long, mournful wail of the Gamble Train this week. Because the stories that we have to talk about are not they're not too peppy.
Yeah, you're right.
And so the first one, Aaron, is Chuck Peddle, inventor of the 6502 chip, has passed. This guy, there are few figures in the world of video games that owe as much to one person as Mr. Peddle. The 6502, what systems use the 6502?
The Apples, the PET, the VIC-20s, the C64. Those are ones that come up on
Nintendo
my
Entertainment
head.
System?
NES, yeah. It's funny. I was listening to, if you ever catch the what's it called, retro gaming roundup. Mm-hmm. They did a bit on Peddle and that, and I learned something I didn't know, which was he'd worked at Motorola, and he was coming up with this processor, a cheap processor, and they were like, "Oh, we don't want a cheap processor, take off."
Wow!
And so so he went over to Moss Technology and ended up hand etching this processor on like a glass board, and then they shrank it down the way they used to do stuff, And lo and behold, the processor was born. And he was right. This was the wave of the future in a lot of ways, because it was that inexpensive processor that made all these portable computers and video games affordable. Mm-hmm. You couldn't have put something that was a $300 processor in one of these things. It wasn't going to fly. So yeah, his contributions to the field were great.
Yeah,
and I believe he was 82.
82 years old. Yeah. And I guess
I was glad to see this get a lot of press this week, because he does deserve it.
Yeah. And to learn more about the 6502, this is a new site to me, team6502.org. I guess is sort of the home base for everybody that's into that chip. And our other sad story, and especially for somebody like you, online bulletin board inventor Randy Seuss dies at 74.
Yeah, I saw this pop up on Slashdot, I believe. And it's funny. I remember watching I don't know if you ever saw the
documentary.
The documentary where they talked to. I believe he was in it. But it's funny to think about how it was. I mean, it was the simplest way that the PBS was born. And then once people realized what you could do with it, of course, they copied the idea, or he gave it out, or whatever. And I will say, thanks to this guy, I had a lot of fun in the 80s, and thanks to this guy. And really, in a weird way, it's not that weird. I mean, that you're looking at effectively the predecessor to the internet. I mean, and for all intents and purposes, that is where it started. You know, these little networks, and I think people realize what you could do with a network like this, the importance of it. I mean, it's funny, these two fellows that passed away, both in their own ways, contributed to what we have now on a massive social and business network of computers, because they, one, allowed accessibility of those sorts of technologies to people that could normally not afford it, and then one, showed the way of how to actually get these computers to get together, speak, exchange information. It's quite remarkable, but it's sad. But they won't be forgotten, that's for sure.
No. Was there any attempt, I guess, with BBS, with the actual bulletin board like message system, was there any attempt to move some of that stuff? Could you export stuff like that over to Usenet or anything like that?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, like on every BBS, there was sort of an actual like text bulletin board where people could exchange messages on various topics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if any attempt was made to back any of that stuff up, or was it just impossible?
It all existed on your computer, and it was saved. So by default, it would be saved on your machine.
So
at some point.
whoever was hosting the BBS,
right now, when you've got your FIDO nets and they had message bases that would travel between BBSs all over the world. Every night your BBS would call out, and there was almost like a chain letter that would go around, and so all your messages eventually would get around to any BBSs that were on that network. So, but I don't know. And some of that stuff still exists, but I don't know how deep the archives go. It would be interesting to go back. I've talked to several people that used to run BBSs, and I guess you could go back and look at your BBS software and try to see because it's probably all text-based. You can probably go in there and find it all. In terms of having it saved, I don't know. It would be fascinating to go back and see what people were talking about in the early 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And on BBSs. And maybe, for all we know, there's a site out there dedicated to it. You know how that stuff is. But it would be neat. But BBSs, and I did a lot more chatting on BBSs than I do, not counting Discord, but like in a public forum, I don't chat that much now because, it's a funny thing about Twitter. Twitter is sort of like a big, huge message base in a lot of ways. And it's way more scary to me than because at least the other ones, if you screwed up locally, you really hated by the people on that board. If you screw up now, if you type the wrong thing in, like internationally, you're a piece of garbage.
That's true.
So
that's true.
I'm almost afraid to type anything. It's like I'm going to get in trouble again. Yeah. So but I'm working on it.
Well, that's the end of the Amiga news for this week. Both of these stories, both only tangentially related to the Amiga. But, it's always a little bit slow on the news desk here around the holidays, and I'm sure things will pick back up next week.
Yeah, I agree.
Aaron, it's time to talk about Rygar.
Now, we followed this pretty closely when it was in production because it got announced, and it was a little while. Had you played any Rygar in the arcade, or
No.
have you ever played the arcade game?
No.
So have you played it now?
Yes.
I thought you would just the other night. That was your first time.
Well, I played this since we found out we were doing Rygar like 3 weeks ago.
But I'm
because
talking
because of the way that we did the schedule.
Uh-huh.
So I've been playing Rygar off and on for the past 3 weeks.
But what I'm talking about the actual arcade game.
The actual arcade game I just played for the first time last night.
That's
Rygar is one of those names I would instinctively avoid because it sounds like something that is exactly like what it is.
Let's before we dip into the pool that is the new version. Let's talk about the original.
Sure.
So Rygar, of course, is an arcade game developed and published by Tecmo.
Mm-hmm.
Tecmo did a lot of good stuff.
Tecmo Super Bowl.
They did, including that, but they also did Ninja Gaiden. They did the WWF games, I love both those. Double Dragon, Bomb Jack, that was all theirs. They were a pretty big deal. And this game got released. It's funny that how many places this got released, and you wouldn't have thought about this. But it got released to most of the 8-bits, and plus the X68000, the C64, the Spectrum, the Amstrad, the NES, the Master System, the Lynx, and you also had a PlayStation 4 version when one of those like compilation gimmicks, Tecmo compilation. And so the Commodore Amiga AGA version is the latest, pseudo release, I guess, in a long line of these. So this is a game that was well traveled. You have an idea when this thing came out in the arcade? You know exact date?
Because we talked about it at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, do you know what the exact date it was?
Oh, no, I don't know the exact date.
It was August of '86. So I'm looking at this.
Well, that's not the exact date. Why did you give me the big run-up if you didn't have the exact date?
August 12th. How about that?
You just made that up.
Now, this made its rounds. It's funny to look at how this thing got released because they cranked this thing out immediately on home systems. Like the X68000 must have been getting stuff directly from the arcade.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
That's
with
an exciting
several games.
system.
Yeah.
Think about that. It came out the same year.
Mm-hmm.
That's astounding.
Yeah.
That they would get it that quick. And the C64 got the next year. I mean, you can understand a year or two away, but in the same year, that's pretty impressive. So when this came out, I remember it distinctly because it looked cool. I was like, man, look at this guy. It's got the giant killer.
His weapon is unique.
The game mechanic is for fighting guys is interesting. Your Rygar can jump, and he's also got the giant killer yo-yo, which you can swing around you. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. That's pretty much when I played this in the arcade. That was pretty much as I could get out of it before I was insta-killed. Because I have never been any good at this game.
Mm-hmm. Well, in all fairness, it's very difficult.
It is. Now, this game does have a backstory, if you'll indulge me, because I guess it's sort of pertinent. I like the exactness of this. 4.5 billion years have passed since Earth's creation. Many dominators have ruled in all their glory, but time was their greatest enemy, and it defeated their reign. And now a new dominator's reign begins.
Trojan.
Yeah. Information gleaned from console manuals reveals that the evil being Rygar has taken over the land of Argor. Yeah.
Like a lion and the tiger bred for magic?
That's right. He's taken over the land of Argol, and Rygar, who's a dead warrior that rose from the grave, must use his disc armor to stop him. The disc armor is that thing that spins around. So this was just gleaned from all these different manuals. There's no official story. This is just what you picked up.
What you pieced together.
That's right. So that's what you're after here. Basically, go kill Rygar. It's funny because of course I never got anywhere near Rygar.
No, I never saw.
But I watched people beat Rygar, and he didn't seem very. He seems like the easiest part of the game. It's just crazy haired goofball, and he said, "Go slaughter him." So I'd say, in terms of arcade hits, I would call this a. I don't have numbers to back this up, but let's say modest success. I mean, I saw it around.
Okay.
But I mean, and it got ported a lot, so we're going on the assumption that someone liked this somewhere.
I was going to say this is probably an easy game for an operator to pick out and be like, some people will put some quarters on this bad boy.
Right, right. So if we flash forward to today, 2019, the guys over at Seismic Minds put this bad boy together. This was programmed. I'll just go through some of the credits here. Programmed by McGeezer. I like it. Just the name.
He's the main dude.
And the arcade assets, extraction, sprites, and tile data prep were done by Delfer Silver, DLFR Silver. Mm-hmm. You can go for that. Mapping, sprites, and tiles, color rework by Invent. Music and music and sound effects by DJ Mattoon. With the help from Ross on the ASM 68000 side. So you had 4 or 5 people working on this thing. We mentioned these are the same guys that did the Bomb Jack Beer Edition, which was out I liked it last year. Mm-hmm. This game has the 30 original levels plus additional backgrounds that make use of the AGA chipset. They only released 10 special boxed editions of this, which were given out to like their personal buddies or people that really helped the project. And the boxes look cool. Now, I don't know if you did this, Boat, but one of the first things I did was line up the original. I got a video of the original arcade version of this, and I got the video of the AGA version. And I literally put them side by side, and I ran them. All right, and it is pretty astounding how accurate the game is.
Yeah.
I mean, when they said whoever pulled the sprites and did all that, listen, there's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo that's not my bag.
I'm pulling sprites all the time.
So, I don't know what that means in your house, but I mean, it is a pretty impressive, complete dupe. I mean, it's darn impressive.
Yeah.
The music sounds right. It all sounds great. Now, and something else they mentioned was that there were extra AGA elements to the background. Yes, you can see them. I could see them in a bunch of places. At one place in particular was the very last level. There's the background is way better. So there are some elements of this that were actually improved, I think, tremendously. It supports 2 buttons natively if you want it. Although I tried both 1 and 2 button, and I could do both. For some reason it didn't feel right to have 2 buttons.
Well, they reverse the 2 buttons from what they should be.
Oh,
in classic parlance, the button furthest away from you should be jump, and the button closest to you should be weapon. And they reverse that because I don't know why.
It's funny because I'm not being a console guy. It didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, you're one button all the time.
Well, no, it's just I play with 2 buttons, but maybe it's a MAME thing where I just customize everything.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Although I've tried this on the emulator and I tried it on the Amiga. And one of the reasons I did that was I did run across some glitchy parts. Not anything major, but just little glitchies. And I want to see if they happen on both. But nothing major. Just a couple of glitches here and there. Apparently, after this got released, there were a couple pretty good glitches that they had to deal with. But again, there was nothing major. And I should mention that this is available to download for free. So what do you do in this? Well, you are Rygar and you run through the countryside or through caves or whatnot, and you try to kill all the bad guys and make your way to the end. It's pretty simple. At the end of the level is a tribute to Kung Fu, where you pick up the giant barrel and turn it around like there's a secret door behind it, and then you go in this room with these. I guess let's go with statues. They could be mosaics. There's all kinds of different poses, and sometimes they're not even people. Sometimes it's just like a symbol.
So to me, this was the most interesting game or part of the game.
What's that?
When you complete a level,
yes,
you do this dance with this sculpture.
You don't dance.
It's almost like when you run into somebody in a hallway and you sort of shift one way and then you sort of go around each other. That's what I pictured. He's doing this awkward dance with this. Why did they put that in the game?
Well, you know what it reminded me of? You want me? Here's my thought on it. Okay. Have you ever seen Kung Fu, the show Kung Fu?
No.
Okay.
Is it like Chuck Norris sidekicks where he has the kid?
No, this is David Carradine in the classic Kung Fu show, which is a great show. Anyway, David Carradine was. And by the way, this could happen to you since you're going to that monkey and retrieve.
True.
He's up there with the Shaolin, and the Shaolin have this gimmick where you have to pick up this flaming barrel with your forearms. And one side's a dragon, and one side is a tiger. It's a tiger. And so when you pick it up, it's flaming. It brands your arms.
Oh.
And you pick it up and turn it around. And so I was trying to, in my head, when I saw the guy pick up this giant dragon barrel.
Were you doing that to get the branding on your arms? Was that
Well, it was sort of a test, too.
Oh, okay.
And so it sort of looks the same. Because, how often are you going to be picking up a large metal pot? I'm trying to think in my head, why would, it's hiding a secret door. So, but it seems like you'd figure it out.
Especially because there's a lot of these secret doors.
That's true.
At the end of every
I'm
level.
just saying, so in my mind, when Rygar is picking that up, he's actually that's the final test of the level for him to pick this up and move it. Plus, he's been through all these trials and stuff. That last part of the level, that's the last test. After all the exertion you put out, do you have enough jack to lift this heavy iron barrel to spin it around?
He always does. He always has the strength.
That's right. Man, I'm telling you, when you see that iron barrel, you're a happy man. You're like, I made it to another one of these freaking levels. So
at the end of the level, I thought that the way they did the rank system was interesting. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, first thing it does is it shows you there's a word they use.
Repulse.
Repulse. It's like a crap load of all the stuff you've killed, basically. And then they score it.
Right.
That's pretty much all there is to it. Was there something I missed there? Is that the way?
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
And it'll kick out a ton of those because you kill a lot of stuff. Along the way, now, I guess the first thing I should do is say, Boat, how far did you get in Rygar?
I believe I made it to the middle of the second level.
Okay, I got further than you. I could get to the 5th level.
Wow.
Okay.
Without using save states?
5th round. No, I didn't have save states. It's on the actual
Without using the infinite lives code?
Is there one?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know about that. I didn't use any codes. Listen, I do it old school.
Okay.
But could I do it consistently? Absolutely not. This game is tough to be consistent in because it's difficult and there's enemies coming from all over the place. So when you go out to these levels, you've got enemies that come from above. Sometimes they jump off stuff. Sometimes they're dropped. Sometimes they just fly in. You've got the critters that come in from the left and right of the screen. And you've also got guys that can come dig up from underneath the screen. There's like little tunnels. As you go through the game, there are many different levels that we would never see in a million years.
And that's the thing that got me, is this is another example. And of course, this is like every arcade game. But some of those later levels are so pretty. It's such a shame that 99% of the people that played Rygar never got to see them.
It's funny because, again, I was not the biggest fan of Rygar in the arcade, so I never bothered to look any of this stuff up.
Right.
I had no idea that there were vertical levels in the game, or games where you have shielding. I had no idea any of that stuff existed. As you go through the game, something in a nod to say Super Frog, there are a million pickups in this game. I don't know what most of them do.
Most of them do nothing but give you score, just like the pickups in Super Frog.
Can you explain to me, because I've looked this up anywhere, maybe someone will check it. There are 5 squares at the bottom of the screen, and occasionally you'll run across something that goes to that square.
Yeah.
Okay? What the hell is that?
So
I've never known, and I've played this thing a million times. I have no idea what the hell those things are.
So I actually did a little bit of research because I wasn't
good.
And so
I'm glad you did.
And so what these are is you've got the star power increases your weapon's range. So that's one of the things that fills up the thing on the bottom. The crown power increases the power of your weapon. It looks like a crown.
All right.
The tiger power is my favorite. That lets you jump on enemies. Yeah. You've got the cross power, and that gives you invincibility, and the sun power allows you to have greater control over your vertical firing.
It seems like these just come up randomly. Is that true?
I think so.
I mean, you can jump on your enemies anyway. You just don't necessarily kill them. Sometimes you just stun them. That's something else. In the arcade, I never knew you could jump on enemies, like Mario style.
Well, you can, but if you have the tiger power, not only do you stun them, you knock them out.
I never got tiger power, which I want it so bad, but I want to. But I mean, I didn't know if these things anything to do with the end game or things. So those are just basically special ones. It's weird to me. It's a weird system to me, basically, to do it that way. Randomly give these things out. Sometimes you can even get. I've had 2 come up like almost right in a row.
Yeah, I think
I'm like, I got them.
There's probably a counter. The number of enemies that you've killed has something to do with it. I mean, there's probably some kind of a system.
Yeah, I don't know. You can also get things that blow up everything on the screen. If you touch them, and I guess they're just sort of like pickups that are just like random stuff because I didn't know what they did.
Right.
Again, comparing this to the arcade, I've tried playing both this week too. And I was as crappy at the arcade version as I was at this. I mean, really, honestly, when I say I made it to the 5th round, that was a miracle game. I mean, it really was. I'd never done that well before, so most of the time I would peter out in the 3rd round, and occasionally I would not make it that far.
I was going to say, I might have made it to the 3rd round for one time. I was just trying to remember, but I definitely didn't make it to the 5th. No way, not a million years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always found this game hard, and that's my biggest problem with the arcade game. First, let me just say this before we move on to what we thought of it. This is an incredibly accurate love letter to this game. If you like Rygar and you want to play it on your Amiga, you won't do better than this. This is as close to an emulation of the game as you're going to find.
100% agree.
The controls are tight. The enemies, the atmosphere, the music, it is dead on. I mean, I couldn't hardly find the difference between this and the arcade of having them side by side. The scoring looks the same. The stuff at the top of the screen's the same. Everything, the font, the way your extra man look, everything identical. I mean, I'm sure someone who's a super duper expert Rygar could sit down and tell you the differences. But from having these things playing side by side, the only times I could tell a real big difference is if there was a little glitch or something. I could say, okay, I know that's the Amiga. And these glitches are so small that they don't affect your gameplay. It's just something you can see if you know what to look for. So when I say that I think this game is super accurate game Rygar, it is. Now, from that we go into what did you think of Rygar? So what did you think of Rygar as a game?
Sucks. It's the worst. I hated it.
It's not the worst. Clearly not the worst.
It is the epitome of the generic. No, it's not the epitome of the generic arcade like kill 'em all because the weapon is neat.
Yeah.
But the frequency, the thing that gets me is it's a lot like Ghouls and Ghosts and Goblins, where the amount of enemies that are just launched at you from the get-go it's just so many.
Yeah, there is no learning curve. That's for darn sure. They're instantly on you.
And I didn't think that the enemies were that intelligent. You know, they sort of fly around kind of like Agony style, where it's just sort of random nonsense. I didn't, you know, your guy, he's not given any, I mean, you get that wall of text at the beginning, but I don't know. I feel like if you're making a game called Rygar and it's about a legendary warrior, I want to see some character progression. You know, I don't want to see him just get to the end of the level and then give you your score tallies and then go on to the next level. I want to see like something happen where it's like in Lionheart, you know, in Lionheart where you get a little bit of text, it's like he goes into the forest and then he goes to the thing. Like that would have been cool. That would have made the game more cool to me. The best part of the game was where he does the dance with the metal pot. And the worst part of the game was everything else.
Well, I think you're being pretty harsh. I mean, I think you nailed it early when you said it was a lot like Ghouls and Ghosts. It's a difficult game, and this is an era where these games came out and they were super rock hard, right? You know, some people like that sort of thing. I mean, there are people that absolutely love Ghouls and Ghosts, and that sort of thing. And
I don't know of anybody that absolutely loves Rygar, except for maybe McGeezer's or whatever his name is.
Well, I think the game is it's an interesting game. I think you can get better at it. I mean, I will say I did improve as I played it, but it's so tough that it frustrates me because I can't get consistently good at it. And again, this is a game. It's like this game is not an enemy. If you ever played Roston in the arcade,
another hard one.
Well, it's not as hard, but it's still it's a little bit easier than this one.
It's that same era,
and it's also similarly looking. I mean, I think Roston is a better game. All right, I'll say that. Certainly the music's better, but this weapon is cool, and there's a lot. I mean, this sort of reminded me of like a Strider, where you've got the gimmicky. Strider had the way he attacked and could get around. So there's a gimmick to it that made it cool. But this game is just too hard for me. And this is funny because I grew up, this is right in my wheelhouse, but and I remember playing this in the arcade and just having no luck. And so when I knew there was an Amiga version coming out, I was like, man, I sure hope they put in like a dumb guy mode or something. And there's not a mode dumb guy enough for me to get good at it. Like I said, I went through and watched a playthrough of the whole thing. There are 30 rounds of this game, and tons of stuff I'd never seen. You know, so like you said, there are some pretty cool levels. There's snow. I will say the backgrounds almost seem it's almost like, say, a Shadow of the Beast, where they really don't play into the actual gameplay, because really you're sort of walking across the same sort of terrain all the time. Just the background has changed, but it's still cool looking. It adds some depth to the game. In terms of the way it looks.
Now let's talk a little bit about, if you'll allow me,
please.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the various ports of Rygar that are out there.
Okay, yeah.
Did you have a chance to play any of the ports of Rygar?
I didn't. I played the arcade in this. That's the only ones I played.
The Atari Lynx got a port of Rygar.
Right.
It's actually quite good. It is nowhere near arcade perfect. It looks nothing like the Amiga port. But Rygar himself is there. He's got the spinning yo-yo. The enemies look pretty much the same. It's very simplified. It's an easier game. But the music is there. And for the time, I think it was also another one of these that came out just a year or two after the original arcade game. I was very impressed by that. The NES version of Rygar is a totally different game. They took the Rygar character and they made a kind of, it's been described as a Metroidvania style game where you're collecting items and you're talking to people and things like that. Yeah. It's still very, very difficult. You're not interested at all, are you?
Well, one thing NES did is they would do this, like Ninja Games, another one. They had a couple of these where you'd have like the arcade game, and they were like, that's not going to work for us. We're going to have something more in depth for the people, right? And so they would elaborate, and often would be a completely different game.
Yeah, and it's a very apt comparison. Ninja Gaiden for the arcade, Ninja Gaiden for Bionic Commando is very similar.
Right. So I'm not unfamiliar. I'd say I never played this on the NES. By the way, the Lynx came out in '90.
Oh, so much afterwards.
Well, not too. I mean, if you think about it, 4 years. Yeah. I'm not surprised. I can see where this could be pulled off in the Lynx. I don't think it's not super taxing.
No.
On here. Now, let's talk about, like I said, you played all these different versions. Did you, since this has the AGA, the extra support for like the backgrounds, the way it scrolls, did that have you affect your enjoyment at all in terms of the way, I mean, it's a very attractive game.
Well, it's hard to know because we don't have an OCS, ECS version to compare it to. Like, if this guy
but you can compare it to the arcade, is my point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, this is, I mean, I don't know the arcade version well enough that if you put them side by side, I don't know that I'd be able to tell the difference between the two. It's that good.
Yeah,
it's really, really good.
I have to say, I'd say you're probably right. I mean, I think they did an excellent job, and the extra. I've heard some people ask, like, why is this AGA? And I think when we broached that a couple of days ago, we were talking about it, and I think they strictly use the AGA stuff to make the backgrounds more attractive. I don't think and it worked. I mean, could this game run on a Amiga 1000? Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
You could have some form of this game on the 1000.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be as attractive, but I mean, it's not like it's not anything super spectacular. I got on the lemon boards, or let's take that back. The EAB message base. I was looking at some stuff on this, and apparently this game has already gotten a review in a French magazine, and I believe they gave this a 79%. And they also lemon people give this an 8.21 on their scoring. Now, I don't think these scores are aimed at the actual guys that made this game.
No,
I think it's sort of like us. The actual effort from these men is off the charts.
Right.
I give the conversion 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it is top shelf.
Me too.
And
top
I love
shelf.
it. And if I was a big Rygar fan, I'd be set. You know, I would love to see, like, I'm a much bigger fan of like these other games of that era. I would love to see some. You know what I'd love to see, since we're doing techno? How about bringing us all a good wrestling game over and having WWF superstars come over? That's something you might be able to do on the Amiga.
Boy, Lord knows the Amiga needs a good wrestling game.
It does.
Yeah,
it desperately does.
Yeah. So let's start that campaign right now.
But there are plenty of these run and fight games that you could bring over. I don't know what these guys are after. In terms, I mean, since they gave this game away, I don't know if they're going for it's just stuff that they like.
I think it's just their hobby.
Like, did you ever play the other game that they brought over, Bomb Jack? Were you a fan of that in the arcade?
I never played the arcade version. I played the arcade. I played it multiple times on MAME. It's a good game.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. It's I think these guys are just bringing over the stuff that they like.
Yeah,
and that's great. Well, I wish I had the power to do that, as opposed to just being some consumer.
Right.
But yeah, that's just not the path I went down.
We did have one. Did you want to talk about some more reviews before we go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Chris Folds says, a fan-made port of the arcade classic. It plays well with decent sound and graphics. What is AGA about it? I'm not sure, but this is a fan project. I guess it made the port easier, which I respect. I'm still no fan of the game in any guise and find it pretty difficult, but it's a great port that deserves attention. 7.5 out of 10.
I think there you go. Folds pretty much summed up what we said.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous effort. Like I said, the AGA, I think, was specifically, they used the AGA's abilities on the background, but it all looks nice. Like I said, in a lot of ways, I noticed there were color changes too in a couple areas, and everything that they changed were, in my opinion, this is just
for
me,
the better.
Was for the better. I thought the color they had on a couple levels, sort of, you would lose the sprites in the mix. And I thought that they went with a sort of a darker color that helped in the sky. Of course, you never know. It could have been. You never know with color, because we all see it a little bit different. But that was a good move. The backgrounds actually added in some areas a lot. You couldn't notice it as much in some areas, but overall, I got nothing bad to say about it. I thought it was top shelf. Of course, this is not available on eBay because it's a freebie. Go grab this and add it to your collection free. Hey, that's the thing. This is a heck of an effort, and by the way, it's free. So my hat's off to the guys over at Seismic Minds, and keep them coming. You are appreciated.
All right, Aaron. Let's talk a little bit about what's been going on our YouTube channel, huh? Okay, sounds good, man. So first up, why don't you talk about this Coco plays that you did here on Buzzard Bait? Yeah, I'm trying to go back and pick up some of the games that we covered that I didn't get to do a plays on, and this one was the first one on the list, was Buzzard Bait, which is a clone of Joust, a pretty good clone of Joust. And what made this one memorable is that the fellows that did it went on to actually do the Atari port of Joust to the Atari ST. So they went from doing a clone to actually doing the actual game, which I thought that was real neat. So yeah, I'm going to be buzzing through some Coco and Amiga plays in the next few weeks. I've got most of this week off, so I've got a lot of different games planned. So this was the first one on my list. Let's see. There's a couple of these that we can't go into yet because they still have not been released, but you have done some plays on Crystal City, Outhouse, Gunstar.
Yeah, Gunstar, which we'll be announcing. We'll talk more about that on the Coco Show, but Gunstar is a game that's upcoming, and we're going to actually be debuting a long playthrough of the game on New Year's. And I've been talking to the fellow that's coded the game, Nick Morites, and he's a real nice guy. And we're working with him, and we're gonna be the guys debuting this thing to the
on
world.
New Year's Eve. You said.
There's little snippets of it out there, but I play it through all the way to the beginning,
to the bitter end,
to the fourth level. No, we don't. The fourth level is a mystery level. No one gets to see that one yet, so that was fun. The other ones that are on the list are just some stuff that we've touched on. A couple were touched on this week. And then we also did we covered edutainment games on ARG this week, Boat. And so the game I played, it's happened to also be on the color computer, which is Donald Duck's Playground for the color computer. And so I put up just me playing the game on here, and I'm actually going to do a review. I'm going to do a commentary playthrough of this on the Amiga.
Oh,
I thought it was neat that these platforms shared this game. So I'll be going back and doing an Amiga
Very
one
cool.
Sometime in the next couple of days as well. So yeah, I've been pretty busy trying to get some stuff cranked out.
And finally, I played last night. Randomly, was scrolling through the old Game Boy Advance library and came across one of my favorite games of all time, WarioWare Mega Micro Games. You ever have a cup of coffee with this one, Aaron?
I have played WarioWare games. I don't know if I've played this particular
This is the original. This was for the Game Boy Advance. And WarioWare is fantastic. If you like literally like 3-second games, there are hundreds and hundreds of these little games that are all played right in a row. And it was just a good time. I was hanging out with the chat and playing some WarioWare. So you can check that out if you're interested in the Game Boy Advance.
I never knew that game actually debuted on the GBA.
Oh yeah, and the original is still my favorite.
We've got the Wii version of this, and it's a lot of fun.
It is. They're all a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're just dopey, moronic sorts of.
That's
good
my
time.
kind of game.
And there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, Aaron. I think we've done everything. We've made
done it all.
We made it through the show. We made it through New Year's. We made it through Christmas.
Man, this has been a heck of a week, hasn't it?
We are recording the show a little bit early this week. Because,
a little bit early.
Yeah. It's a little bit early because I'll be out of town next week. So we are going to give more people a chance to write in with their guesses on the New Year's Eve Patreon Song Challenge. So there will be no Patreon Song Challenge this week. However, of course, I will always read the names of our Patreons, and they are Zorglub, Iron Wolf. You know what, Aaron? Why don't you read them? I'll make it real big for you.
Oh, I'm not a senior citizen, Boat.
There you go.
Thank you to our supporters, Zorglub, Iron Wolf, Jorgen Gnassen. How's that?
That's pretty good.
Terry Howard, Reflection, Simon Lech, Captain Crispy, Kilobytes and Caffeine. I like that. Mike W. Decker, Threepwood, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobs Terminator, Craig McKellen, 10-minute Amiga Retro Crash 10 mark for short, Bernard Quinn, Retro Man Cave, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Eder, Rob Flack O'Hara, Howard Nibbs, Matt, Evil Matt Larimore, Andy Craig, Shanzo, Darren Lomax, Colin 419, The Bark Bit, Roland Burke, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie, John Cook, Leaf Kalan, Alan Kebab, Chicote, Level Lord, John Marshall, our buddy in Charleston, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocher, The Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sogard Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Blindo75, Christopher Hassel, Robbie Abbott, Chris Foltz, Dreamcatcher, Laurent Giroux, Graham, W, Vebke, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage. Just see all the spittle that came out of my mouth to get that one out.
It's easy to let the spittle fly.
Yeah, you got to. Gary Hucker, the Huck, C, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, the Duncan Styles, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, the THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy Hermbestad, Daniel Bingston, the Brutal One, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warrens, Pixels at Dawn, and Kilborn Barman.
Awesome.
There you go.
Good work.
Thank
man.
you.
Good work. And of course, we wouldn't be anywhere if it weren't. That's true. We'd still be doing the show.
We're really not anywhere now.
But I also want to thank
We're in your
all
basement.
the fine folks who have subscribed to us through Twitch. If you enjoy the show and watch us on Twitch, you can also subscribe to the channel through there, like Duncan Styles, People, Wolfist22, Go Sub, Pixels at Dawn Gaming, Tanner Mirabelle, The Slow Norris, Anguish Auteur, Muggy7, Barkbit, Paco Tocale, Brother Bill, Still Adolescing, Macintosh Librarian, Mohawk Mall, Tapes from the Crypt, G Vebke, Rule of Thirds, Chris Folds, Silver Streak 72, Rushi MSX, Frodo NL, Donovan, Gary Hucker, The Project, Brutal Barracuda, I Am Paul H, and L. Curtis B. Thank you guys so much.
You're all lovelies.
All right, Aaron. Next week, it's Shooter Week on Amigos.
All right, what do you got?
Apidia.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one I know.
This one,
I love it.
of course, every week, the game that we play is voted on by the Amigos Game Selection Committee. If you would like to become a member of that committee, check out our page over at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast. And it was originally suggested to the committee by none other than Chris Folds himself.
All right, the man who bought me this fine hat.
That's right. That's right. And of course, we thank everybody that's watching live now on Twitch. Pixels at Dawn Gaming, Rushi MSX, Ricky DeRocher, Lobsterminator, Picard 2010, Jan Holbro, Rule of Thirds,
Mr. Cola.
Mr. Cola, and everybody that's lurking around.
And the rest.
And the rest.
That's what you're saying.
And the rest. Didn't they add that to Yellen's Island when the cast became like a cast of thousands?
And the rest.
Right.
Doo-doo. The rest, that's when you know you're screwed.
That's when you turn the dial to the right. All right. So, guys, we will see you next week with Apidia. Until then,
Adios.
adios.